Welcome to the Champs App podcast, where we help players and parents demystify the world of minor hockey development and recruiting for both girls and boys. On this episode, I talk with Sara Reichenbach, who is the assistant coach at the University of Maine women's hockey program. We talk about what college coaches look for in players, coaching with her husband, and of course, the University of Maine women's hockey program. I really enjoyed this conversation with Sara, and I hope you do too. Before we get to our guest, if you enjoyed this episode and want us to keep making more of them, please share it with teammates and friends. You can also subscribe, like, follow, and even better, it would be great if you would leave us a review. Now, let's drop the puck and get to the show. I'm very excited to have Sara Reichenbach on the Champs App podcast. Sara grew up in Elmer, Quebec, went to Hebron Academy Prep in Maine. Then she spent 4 years playing for the St. Lawrence Saints on the women's team. Then finally, she played one season over in Switzerland before starting to become a coach. She's had several coaching stints, which she will talk about, including 2 stints at Maine. Finally, then she returned to Maine in 2013, where she's been an assistant coach for the last 7 or 8 years. Welcome to the podcast, Sara.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, why don't we just kick it off like all the guests that I ask, telling us about your hockey history. How did you fall in love with the game? And then tell us about your journey.
Yeah. So, funny thing is that I think most hockey girls started like this, but I started as a figure skater. And actually, my parents have this vivid picture of me and my brother. I'm wearing a yellow Care Bear outfit, and my brother's wearing a blue Care Bear outfit. And we were just preparing for a show. And so I can't, that is seared in my brain. And that's really the only thing I remember. But, I started off figure skating, and my brother was playing hockey, obviously. And after that, and I always went to his practices, I always went to his games, and I just kind of like, well, I really want to do this. So my dad signed me up for hockey, and that was kind of the beginning of everything. And of course, back when I played, there wasn't a lot of women's hockey opportunities. So I played with guys until I was 18 years old. So it was quite the journey. And obviously, there's pros and cons to that journey. But
do you feel that playing with boys made you a better hockey player, which is why you had so much success?
I think that, people ask me that all the time, like, should I play with boys or stay with girls? And there's just so, like, every side has like its the positives. And I think playing with guys helped me obviously be more physical. Definitely helped me like push myself and challenge myself in practices. But I also think that because I grew up playing like hitting with guys, obviously it was hitting. Let's just say that my puck control suffered a lot. And the other thing too is back then, and I wish I could go back and fix this, but just working on my skills away from the rink is not something that really I did. I guess I saw my brother do it all the time, and for some reason I just didn't do it. So that's definitely one of my biggest regrets is not, putting that time in off the ice. But so playing with guys, I think really as soon as I had the puck, I was throwing it away because that fear of getting hit. And I think that really hurt me in my development. And then the other part is just kind of like that like locker room aspect that you lose, because a lot of time I spent my time by myself in a locker room, in a closet. I think that I mean, like just that camaraderie that you have with your teammates is just such a huge part of the sport or any team sport. And I didn't have that. And although I had really good friends on the team, it was just different. And obviously boys talk about different things, and it's just that's another big regret that I miss. But I think that along the way, though, I did have some good coaching, which was good. I think because the men's program was established in Elmer, there was teams and good coaches that put their time and effort into it. So I think that's another way that I benefited. But if I would go back and do it again, I remember when I had to switch to girls, I was talking with my dad, and I was just crying because I was upset that, you know, I was kind of leaving what I've known for like, you know, 15 years. But it was really one of the best decisions ever. It was a
Was
really
there a
good.
lot of girls hockey in Elmer or Gatineau?
No, in Elmer there was none. Um, I ended up switching from Elmer to go play. It was a program in Ottawa. It was called NCCP, and my dad had heard about the tryout, so I just kind of showed up. And I remember the coach after was like, where did you come from? Because I had never played girls, nothing, like no one really knew who I was.
Sure.
Um, so that obviously was kind of a cool moment. I was like, I'm me, Sara, just playing boys hockey in Elmer. So they didn't know anything about it. But I'll remember that first year, just the different, because I went there, I played NCCP with the women's team for a year. Then I went to prep school.
How did you end up going? How did you end up going to prep school, especially in the States, which is kind of unique from someone from Quebec?
Yeah, no, definitely. So that's a kind of a funny story too. So during this whole process, I went to a school in Gatineau, it was Sport Études, it was called. So when I first went, it was the first year that it started, and it was
It's a sports school. Sport
it's a
Études is a
sports
sports
school. It
school.
was
Yeah.
within the high school. It was like a separate thing, and it had just started. And what it was is we went to school in the morning, and then the afternoon was all dedicated to hockey on top of the teams that we played with at home. Um, the thing with that is there was at the time only two girls. It was me and another girl, and then there was probably like 20 guys, and these were all like guys who ended up playing midget AAA. So they were very, very talented. So I played there. That was quite the experience and challenging in itself. Um, but actually the first practice ever, so we were separated from the guys, and in that rink that we played at, the locks locked from the outside, and the janitor had locked me and the other girl in the locker room.
Oh, geez.
First practice ever. And so we're in the locker room, like banging on the door. We missed the whole practice. It was, yeah, it's quite
But you got out.
We got out. We definitely got out. So that was kind of how it all started. So anyway, so the guy who was the head of that, the head hockey guy, also coached in the
QMJHL, the Quebec
yeah.
Junior Hockey League.
Yep. So he had actually recommended me to. He knew the coaches of the female team Quebec, which I didn't know anything about at the time. But so he recommended me to the Team Quebec coaches, and then I got invited to camp, and then ended up making the team. This guy who reached out to me was someone who helped place Quebec girls into prep schools. So long story short, he ended up seeing me and then recommended that I look at these prep schools, and then we went. We looked at a few, and then Hebron was just starting a team, and then we went down there with my two sisters, and it was just for me, but then they found out my two sisters played, so we ended up all going together.
All at the same time?
All at the same time. So
That's
my
fabulous.
dad went from, I also have a brother, so he went from a full house. We all left to go play prep school, and he left to go play juniors, so yeah, it was quite a hit for him.
A lot of travel, probably.
Yeah, no, he came to see us a lot at Hebron, and my brother was in Saskatchewan, which was pretty far. He couldn't get there much, but so that's kind of how I ended up at Hebron.
Gotcha. And so how many years were you at Hebron, and what other sports did you play other than just hockey? Because I understand you need to play 3 sports while you're at the prep school.
Yeah, that was definitely hard for me, because when they said like you have to play 3 sports and you can only play hockey like a couple of months, like I had long conversations with my dad about that, because I'm like, I'm a hockey player. Like I want to play hockey. I don't want to not play hockey, but it was really a cool experience. So I was there for 2 years, and I did soccer in the fall, and then track and field in the spring. So that was, I mean, obviously soccer prepared you, and you worked on your cardio and stuff like that. So that was fun.
And how did you end up at St. Lawrence?
the St. Lawrence just recruited me through watching me play at Hebron, yeah, no, I think PJ talked to me a few times, and I went on a visit there, and really enjoyed it. So
That's awesome. So and then you decided to keep playing after St. Lawrence University. So tell us about that.
well, my brother was playing in Switzerland at the time, and I wasn't really ready to like stop playing. So I reached out to people out there, and then heard back from Lugano. Um, and then the good thing about me too is that because I'm Swiss, I wasn't considered an import, because I think back then it was only 2 imports, I think, per team. So so they signed me, and I went down there, but and then I had an apartment, and the airline lost all my bags. So I got there, and I didn't have my equipment for a long time. And then when I finally got there, it was wet, it was drenched. So the first week was a little bit tough. I was using other people's skates and stuff like that. But again, Switzerland was a really cool experience. And the Lugano is absolutely beautiful. So it was really fun. And I ended up playing, I don't know exactly, but I only played for about 2 months. And then I got a job offer to coach at North American Hockey Academy, which I knew that's what I wanted to do. So
How did you know you wanted to be a coach?
That's a really, I'm very fortunate, because after my freshman year at St. Lawrence, I wanted to make money in the summer. So I just decided to sign up for camps. And I literally, from the moment I did camps, I knew that I wanted to coach. And that's why I feel like I'm so fortunate, because I knew so early what I wanted to do, that like every summer I did all these camps. Like I met coaches, I put myself out there. I knew that I wanted to coach. I just loved it. I love kind of impacting the girls on the ice, and teaching them, and just being around the sport. I think really where I got my I think my coach at St. Lawrence, I think just like how she impacted me, and how much she loved doing what she was doing, and Jody McKenna at the time. I think she just definitely had a big impact on me, on just kind of what you can give back as a coach, and stay in the game. And she was very passionate, and really cared about us. So it was really, I think she was kind of like, yeah, I kind of want to be like her,
Great. So
she might not say that I always acted that way.
But you always had it in you that you were interested in it once you started doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and you had some good female role models to see a path to be a women's coach. That's great. So you were at Naha for a year, and then what happened?
Yeah, so I was at Naha, and it was, again, a very good experience. And that program at the time was obviously, and still is, was a very good program. And there were some really good players that I had an opportunity to coach. And Bill Driscoll, was a very good mentor to me. And looking back now, how much he cared about the girls is really was also very impactful for me, because now being in that position, you can really understand how caring for your players can really help them grow and develop, and give them that self-esteem and confidence that they need to really succeed as a hockey player. So working with him was really a gift, because he really did care a lot about them. So I was there for a year, and then and then I knew I wanted to coach college. So I don't know if you know, but every year there's a coaching conference in Naples, in Florida.
Yep.
And what I did is I booked my own hotel, booked my flight, went down there by myself. I just went to the events and kind of mingled with the coaches and talked to people. It was really an uncomfortable situation for me, but I was like, this is what I want to do. I just did it. And through that, I got an interview with Mike Sissy at Mercyhurst, and then he ended up hiring me as his volunteer GA. So it was really worth it, although every step of the way was scary. But yeah, it was.
And then you had your first go around with Maine after Mercyhurst. Is that correct?
I sure did. Yeah. So after my 2 years at Mercyhurst, I applied to a couple places. And I was getting my master's at Mercyhurst in organizational leadership. And so I applied to a couple places, and then at the time, Dan Lichteming was coaching at Maine. So I got an interview with him, and I ended up getting hired. But I tell you what, like coaching at Mercyhurst really set me up for, appreciating a good work ethic and really being dedicated to your craft. And so I really was, I was really lucky to be able to be part of that program for a couple of
Yeah, they
years.
got your start in the college game. Yeah.
They did, yeah, no, and Mike Sissy is very dedicated and puts in a lot of hours and long hours, and so that was a really good lesson to learn and be mentored by him to kind of get a picture of what it takes really to have success.
And then before coming back to Maine, you made a move to the Ivy League with Dartmouth.
Yeah,
So I'm curious why you made the move to the Ivy League, and then given your you would have now had 4 different coaching experiences before your
yeah.
current role. I'm just wondering what attributes make the programs different that you saw between them, between girls hockey academies,
Yeah.
Mercyhurst, Maine, Dartmouth. What are the things that make these programs different?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think anytime, I mean, every coach really has a different philosophy, different things, different way to do things, different values. So I think as a young coach, the more head coaches you can work under, or the more head coaches you can work with, are definitely going to give you the most experience and um, because if I found that I was very fortunate to work with I think really different coaches, and because they kind of give you a little bit of everything, and you learn, from each of them, you learn different things. So I think that working at Dartmouth was very, again, such a unique experience than I've ever was used to. I think Mark Hudak was a pretty impressive head coach as well, and really someone that I learned from. And he was always so cool and calm and collected in any situation, and very well spoken, and was a really good communicator, and I think I learned a lot from him in that area.
How's it different from a player perspective, from the 3 different colleges? Just so that our listeners can understand, like, hey, when you think about this school, these are the kind of things to consider versus this other school.
Yeah, so of course I think every school, everybody fits in different schools, but I think for me, you know working in the Ivy League, obviously, and I'm not devaluing the education, or how the players view their education, otherwise, different from the Ivy League. But I think there's a heavy focus on education at the Ivy League, and to be able to perform on the ice and perform in the classroom obviously says a lot about those players, and just their, there's a lot of sacrifices they have to make in their dedication to their studies and into hockey. But I think their experience there was, just the balance is definitely, kind of more equal, I would say. Not that not that education is not important at non-Ivy schools, but I think that, when you're at Ivy school, there is a lot of, you have to really balance things really well. Um, but they are very, I think what I really enjoyed about Dartmouth is that the players were, they thought through things a lot, and they had, really good questions, and always kind of wanted to know why. And I think that they, being such a young coach working there, really helped develop the communication, which is why I think Mark Hudak was such a good communicator. But I was young, and I was learning a lot, so I think they really pushed me to, um, to really think through things and process things. So
Gotcha. So while you were at Dartmouth, you went on a recruiting trip to Stony Creek, to the Stony Creek tournament, which was a life-changing event for you because I believe you landed a top prospect while you're there at your first recruiting event. You want to explain to folks what happened on that recruiting trip to Stony Creek?
yeah. So my first recruiting trip with Dartmouth, and I was going into the coach. They always have a really cool coach's room with snacks and everything. And I was just going to get some coffee, and then I kind of just ran into someone. We kind of did that little dance, like, "Oh, what way are you going?" And we kind of bumped into each other, and I just kept seeing that same person over and over, and ended up striking up a conversation. And now here we are, married, and 3 kids. So
And you want to explain the role that this gentleman plays currently in your life, not just in your personal life, but in your professional
yeah,
life?
yeah. Um, so yeah, no, he's the head coach of the Maine, and I'm his assistant. So, he's my husband and I guess my boss. So it's but yeah, no, we met, and that was kind of it. When they say people, sometimes you just know, I just kind of knew. So he says he felt differently, but
So then, how did you end up back at Maine then? And then we'll take it from
yeah.
there, getting into the Maine Black Bears.
So when I first met him, he was working at Cortland at the time, and then after that year, he ended up getting a job here at Maine, and so we were dating for a year at that point, and then 2 years later we're still dating, and we're kind of like, well, let's see where this goes. But we knew that we kind of had to be together, so I left and came back here, and was just a volunteer at the time. But we moved in together, and kind of we thought that it should probably be a good idea to see what could happen if we lived together, and where it could go. So here we are.
So
It worked
Ricky,
out well.
yeah, so Ricky Reichenbach is the head coach of
Yeah,
Maine. You're the
yeah,
assistant coach.
yeah,
There's a third coach, Trey Flesh, who's I
yeah.
believe the goaltending coach. How awkward is it for him to be a part of the trio?
You know what? Trey is a phenomenal person, and he is part of the family. He's been with us for 3 years, and I think in our early years coaching together, I think the earlier coaches had probably a different experience than he has. I think when we first started coaching together, I think we didn't really have boundaries in terms of our communication, and kind of just, if we had something to say, we said it, and if we disagreed, we made it clear. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of just we didn't really understand and those boundaries. And so I think Trey, I mean, Ricky and I have come a long way in terms of our communication skills, which, when people say it must be so hard to work with your husband, but honestly, working together has helped us a lot in our marriage, because you think about our job we're doing, it's all communication, it's working together. So we've definitely developed our communication skills, and it's definitely helped our marriage as well. So when people look like, does it hurt your marriage? And it's like the opposite. It's made it much stronger, and it's been a really amazing experience. But Trey Trey has gotten really good at just saying, like, just he's just really comfortable, and if we're taking a step too far, he doesn't have a problem saying something. Or we're a very open staff, and we communicate a lot, and we hold each other accountable, and we push each other. So that's just another part of being part of the staff that he holds us accountable for, and helps us with. So
Right.
yeah.
All right, we're gonna talk a little bit more how being a husband and wife, coaching staff affects recruiting. But as a player, your current players usually, when there's an assistant coach and a head coach, the assistant coach, acts as kind of a buffer, and it's kind of more the good cop, while the head coach is more the bad cop. That must kind of not work exactly the same way on your team, because anything that a player confides in you, they kind of know that whatever they tell you has a straight line to the head coach. Maybe you
Yeah.
can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I think that I would say that they think like that, but I also understand that when I'm at work, I'm an assistant coach first, and I think they're comfortable in that, and I think that they do come with me a lot to me a lot with stuff. But they also know that they're when it comes to me, doesn't necessarily mean that it goes directly to Ricky. But I also think that it's important that when you're communicating with your players, whether you're married to the head coach or not, there's always that line as an assistant coach. Okay, well, what should I bring to the head coach, and what don't I need to? And that's always a line that I think an assistant coach has to learn and grow and kind of see what they need to do. So I don't think whether you're married or not, that's still a line that you have to figure out. But I really I try really hard to make it a professional relationship when it comes to that stuff. um, and I think the girls trust me. From what I know, obviously I don't know what they don't tell me or what they don't talk to me about. But I think that's one thing that we've really worked on in our program is the communication between the players and the staff. I think that that's such an important relationship to build trust and to build a well-oiled machine, because if there's a lack of trust or lack of communication between the staff and the players, at the end of the day, the players are going this way and the staff's going that way. So that's definitely something that we've worked really hard at.
Yeah, so let's actually talk about the team. So for folks who don't know, you're based in Orono, Maine, which is just
Yeah.
right outside Bangor. You play in the Hockey East Conference.
Yep.
Looking at your record the last few years, you've been consistently right around 500 the last 4 years. You've done a good job of beating BU in the first round of the playoffs a couple of times, and then you
Yeah.
lose in the next round, I think, to the Northeastern Huskies.
Yeah.
But lots of close games, very competitive. What's it going to take to get you guys over the hump?
Um, that's a good question. Something we talk about. We talk every day. I think for us, it's working on that culture, our team culture, which our team culture right now is such an amazing spot. But I think just being able to make the right decisions away from the rink, I think that has such a big impact on how you act at the rink or how you perform at the rink. And I think that is something that, as a coach, you don't have much control over what they're doing away from the rink. So that's why you kind of have to develop and build that culture where they can kind of monitor that and hold each other accountable to that. And that has come such a long way.
What's an
But
example of that like areas that they need to be held accountable? What are things that could be considered, not
yeah,
helpful to the team, or not in the interest of the team?
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a really good question. I think that when you think about our program, when we think about away from the rink, we think about their sleeping patterns, we think about their nutrition, we think about their hydration. We think just about their behavior in the community and public. I think those are definitely things that they kind of have to hold each other accountable for and help each other, really excel in those areas. But again, I mean, and also another thing too is just kind of doing the extra skills that I was talking earlier. Doing some stick handling and doing extra conditioning if you have to, but just things that they can help each other with and hold each other accountable. But when you think about performing or being successful at the Division 1 level, most people just think like more practice and more skill development. But honestly, that is that is a big part, but a small part at the same time, because if you're not taking care of your sleep and your nutrition and your hydration and taking care of your body and making the right decisions, it's going to be really difficult to transition that to having a successful performances. So that is something that we're so proud of them for, and they're really working hard at that.
So what else do you do to help with like team chemistry and culture, especially in these challenging COVID times where, there's a lot of
Yeah,
social distancing and
it
probably
is.
doing a lot more stuff on Zoom than in person that you would like?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that we're very comfortable with Zoom. We do pretty much everything with Zoom, which again, but doing the Zoom stuff has really helped our communication as well, because we don't have so much time together. Just developing, the skills to communicate, instead of, oh, I'll just tell her when I see her in person, or you know what I mean? Like everything is communication is so much higher and successful right now. But so we do, yeah, so we do a lot of stuff on Zoom. And I think that part of the, I mean, the girls could have such a negative attitude, right? They could really feel victims of COVID-19, or just feel like it's not fair, and they could just really feel bad about everything. But this group has been, the their attitude has been so phenomenal. They're just so positive, and we have this no complaining rule, and so this has been really cool, because if you have a complaint, you either find a solution or a butt to it. So like, if I'm complaining about something, like, and I'll just use an example. Oh, it's like really raining, I hate rain, but the trees and the flowers are getting a lot more water. You know what I mean? Like, just adding a butt to their complaints, or coming up with solutions. And I think that has really helped their attitude, and kind of their approach to everything. And so I think the way that we're really helping with the chemistry is just they're holding each other accountable to kind of their attitudes away from the rink, their positivity, being grateful is another one. Like, they talk a lot about things that they're grateful for, and they have Zoom meetings, and they talk about, like, we've been in quarantine a couple times, but they'll have team meetings together and talk about how they can support one another and what they can do to help each other. And so they're doing a really fantastic job making sure that everybody feels supported and they have what they need. So it's been, yeah, it's probably, like, even though it's been really hard, it's probably been one of my favorite years of coaching.
Really?
Just because just their attitude and their coachability, and just they just, like, when we do get to practice, just the joy and gratefulness that they bring to the ice, it's been really, really special. So it's, I don't know.
So you've had to be really flexible this year. So I know even just this past weekend you had 2 games scheduled. One of them got canceled. The day, the
Yeah,
time, everything's getting changed at the last minute.
yeah,
Correct me if I'm wrong. You haven't had a home game since
yeah,
2020 now.
yeah,
Maybe you could just tell folks what's going on with the schedule, and just how you need to react to changes happening
yeah.
literally weekly or daily with your
Absolutely.
schedule.
Absolutely. And I think the number one thing that we talk about as a program right now is just to focus on the things that we can control. And the schedule is definitely not one of those things. That's, we find out, the week of, really who we're playing, and on any given day the schedule can change. And so the girls are really focusing on the things that they control again, which is how they show up at practice, their attitude, what they're doing away from the rink, following social distancing rules. Those are all things that they have control, and that, I think, has really, really helped the whole team, even the staff. Because if you start getting concerned or upset about every little change, it's going to be hard to keep up, which I think has really contributed to their good attitude, because they know what they can control and they know what they can't. And we talk about that a lot. And so I think that they're really approaching this, in a really positive way. But it is frustrating, and then you're frustrated, but then you catch yourself, and then you find your butt, and then you keep going.
Well, I'm sure you and your team, just appreciate the fact that you have games this year, right? Because, I
Yeah,
spoke with Kara Morey from Princeton and the entire Ivy League. I had, Tara Connolly from RPI. They don't have games. Union does not have games. So the fact that you're even playing games, you got to be grateful for that, at least compared to the alternative.
and you could even go bigger than that. Like, our concerns for right now is, are we going to play games or not? Are we going to practice or not? But if you think about it, and how it's affected so many lives, and like having a job or not, getting a paycheck or not, or being sick, you know what I mean? Like, when you really think about it, it's kind of like, wow, like, we are so blessed and fortunate to be in the situation that we're in. And we talk about that with the team too. Like, it is it is a blessing that our concern is, are we going to play this weekend or not, as opposed to so many other people that are suffering in so many different ways. And when you really put it in perspective, it's like we're very, very lucky.
Gotcha.
And I think they understand that.
That's great. So I'm just curious, just technically, is there a reason why you don't have home games? Is it because games are not allowed in Maine?
It just has to do with the capacity of the building in terms of how many people can be in there.
Okay.
If we were to host the game, it would be more than what the
Gotcha.
capacity would be. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So before we get into recruiting, I have a very important question for you. If there was a black bear and a brown bear were to have a fight, who would win between the black bear and the brown bear?
Well, definitely the black bear.
All right. Just making sure. Just making
Yeah, of
sure.
course. Yeah, no, the black bear all the time. That's a no-brainer.
All right. Okay. Just making sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I noticed is your roster is the most international that I've basically seen of any team. You have a player from Latvia, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, Russia, Finland, Russia, Czech Republic, and you even let in a Canadian or two. So can you explain how and why you
Yeah.
have so many international players on your team?
I think it started really when we just started watching video, that really changed recruiting for us, is just being able to find games everywhere, and being able to recruit them. And we I think, to be able to watch players play in Europe for, usually it's probably like $5 or $10 to sign up for the website. So really, you're recruiting internationally for $10. So that's kind of how it started, and then it kind of just grew from there, because there were European players. A lot of them are playing for the national team, and they have kind of that little bit more of a, they have that drive that everybody's really looking for, and it's been really fun to coach them.
And so, first of all, do you have a huge travel budget then to go to Europe in the spring and summer during the off season? And then, secondly, do you find that your actual geographic location, which is proximal to Europe, is actually one of the selling points? Is that their families and the travel required for them to connect with folks back home is really helpful?
Yeah, no, we're the closest team to Europe, so that, that's what we always tell them. We're the closest to you guys. But no, I don't think that. I mean, if they're gonna hop on a plane to come here, I think it doesn't. It's pretty much all the same time. But it's always a running joke with us. We're the closest team to you
Yeah,
guys.
but you still got to fly through some major hubs still to get
Definitely,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's quite a few stops. Our Russian player, she's got quite a few stops to make. Uh,
Great.
but
All right, let's shift over now to recruiting, to player recruiting.
yeah.
At one area which we have not explored very much on this podcast is just the basics around how college women's hockey scholarships work. Maybe you can just talk about that. Like, does every player get a scholarship and a full ride, or or is it less? And then how do you divvy them up?
Yeah, so every team depending on the team, they like every team has specific numbers of scholarships, which is 18 at the time. Right now is most teams have 18 scholarships. And then in the recruiting process, as a coach, you kind of just decide who you think, who you want to give that scholarship to, and then you offer it out. So that is, it's kind of how that works. And then
So do all the players get some type of scholarship? Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can actually divide a scholarship in half or
you
in
can, yeah,
quarters,
yeah.
and some get full rides and some get partial rides. So how do you decide that type of
Well,
decision?
I mean, that's every program and every coaching staff can do it whatever way they want. But yeah, you can divide scholarships. Some decide to just give full scholarships, some give money to everybody. But if you only have 18 scholarships and you have 24 or 25 players, then there's certain players that wouldn't be on scholarships. So again, that's just up to the staff on how they want to divvy that out.
And how likely is it to be based on financial need versus, the quality of the player, like the first line center or the
Yeah.
number one goalie versus, the someone who might be sitting in the stands for a few games during the
Yeah,
season?
no, I would definitely say that it would be based off of. I don't think not only on their skill, I think heavily on their skill, but just kind of the kind of person they are as well, and if they fit into your program. If you can find that match, usually that's what we view as a full scholarship player, is the right character and also the right skill.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, not I don't know how programs, all the programs work, but you can, every year you kind of have to renew your scholarship. So depending on what happens, I think some players could earn some scholarship money. Again, I don't know if that's how true that is, but technically I think that's something that could happen if you talk to the coach about that.
So it changes from year to year. So it's possible someone can go from either zero or partial scholarship to some number greater than that. And
Yeah.
and the reverse is true, where is it possible that you might lose some scholarship? Does that ever happen?
Um, I think that can, technically with the NCAA, you're not allowed to take a scholarship away just based off of performance, and that's something that is very clear in the recruiting process. But it does happen for various reasons. So I think that's a conversation that all the recruits should have with the coaching staff where they're considering going. But it can't be taken away just for your performance.
Gotcha. And tell us about just getting into Maine, or schools in Hockey East for that matter, in terms of the relative importance of academics. What kind of grades and kind of course selection are you looking for to qualify to get in the door?
Yeah, no, I think that is a very important message to like every player who wants to play college hockey, is that it doesn't matter how good you are at hockey. If you don't have the grades, it's going to be impossible to, because you have to go through all the same requirements as a regular student. So it doesn't matter really where you're looking or where you're trying to go. Like, you really have to have success in the classroom to be able to apply. So obviously there's various degrees of what kind of grades you need to get into schools, but you have to take care of school in high school to be able to play in college.
Do you need straight A's to get into like a Maine, or is it no? We'll
Yeah, no,
look at the
I think,
hodgepodge.
yeah, no, it's I don't think I don't think you need straight A's. I think it's kind of average. You know what I mean? Is yeah.
Okay, perfect. So tell us then how COVID has impacted recruiting for the conference, in terms of, are some players, because of COVID, do they opt out, or they might be seniors, let's say, coming back for a fifth season? Are the rosters, going to be bigger coming forward? What's your perspective on how this COVID is going to impact the 2022s and the 2023s and maybe even the 2024s?
Yes, it's going to impact quite a few classes, I think, and every program again can do it differently. So because people can come back for an extra year, some schools are allowing players to do that. Some schools can't because they don't have a master's program, and so the transfer portal is going to be, I'm sure it's going to be pretty lit up. But
can you explain what you mean by the transfer portal? Because most parents of kids who are still playing girls hockey may not understand what that means.
Yes, it's just a way of when players want, if they can look to change schools, or if they're trying to go in a different direction as already a player, you just go on this portal, and then it allows you to maybe find another school. So it's just kind of a way of doing it that is more directed by the NCAA, kind of more like
following the process that the NCAA lays out for
exactly.
changing schools. Okay.
So like I said, COVID, some players will be coming back, some won't. The way they're handling the recruits, some schools might push them back or ask them to come later, or some schools may say that they can't come anymore. It really depends on how they want to handle that. So but in terms of actual recruiting, we haven't been able to go anywhere in a really long time, in terms of just watching tournaments and going to tournaments. So that's
assuming that on April 15th that the blackout period lifts and the NCAA rules around a dark period in April and May doesn't happen, what are your plans, or what do you hope to do in the spring and the summer in terms of tournaments and showcases and things like that?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of that's going to be dictated by what is available, and even if if the dead period is lifted, doesn't necessarily mean that all the COVID restrictions would be. So I don't know what tournaments would look like, or showcases, or anything of that nature. So I think it would really depend on what tournaments and showcases are going on. But I'm sure a lot of coaches are itching to get out there, and
Sure.
so. But even with video, there hasn't been that much activity just in terms of tournaments and stuff. So it's been a very, very, very slow year in recruiting wise.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, just by shutting down cities, there's just
No,
less
exactly.
tournaments. Exactly.
At the
So
same time, it's been really amazing to just be in the moment and here and just really focusing on your program.
yeah, sure. A huge amount of player development should be going on if you're able to get on the ice in any way.
Yeah,
That for
absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
So when you are recruiting, um, what do the recruiting coaches look for
Yeah.
in players? What is it that gets you lit up when you go and you watch a player and go, wow, like those are that's the kind of player I'm looking for.
Yeah. I think, every program may, say something different, but, um, you know, for us, I think is a lot of it is just going to be your work ethic. Obviously, that's so blaringly obvious to a coach if someone has a good work ethic or not. I think that during games you could see it, and also work ethic is probably one of the hardest things to coach. If someone doesn't have it, it's hard to kind of break them out of the habit. So I think work ethic is definitely something that, and what I mean by work ethic is just, you know, every shift really moving your feet, skating, back checking, stopping on pucks, going to the net hard, winning your battles. Those are all things that, when I think of work ethic, I think of that stuff. And so that's definitely something that for me is kind of the first thing that draws my attention, and then speed, obviously. I think speed, especially that our league is getting better and better every year, and that speed of the game is really getting up there. So I think speed is another big thing that we looked for. And then shooting, honestly, like having a really good shot really can take you a long way.
Really?
Yeah, no, I think that and the thing about shooting is that if you work on your shooting, you will be a really good shooter. If you shoot pucks every day, if you just really work at it and practice and shoot with a purpose and practice shooting with your head up, you can really develop into a really good shooter. And I think that that's the beauty of sports, is that if you really want to develop a skill, you have the ability to really work on it. But shooting, to have a really good shot, I think goes a really long way.
That's some really good
Um,
advice. Can I actually ask you a very technical question? Do you find that either shooting in motion is better than just shooting with your feet still?
Yeah, no, of course, and that's shooting while your feet are moving is a very difficult skill, and definitely takes a lot of patient practice. Sorry, not patience, but it takes a lot of practice. But I would push it one step further, is to shoot with your feet moving, with your head up.
Yeah. And with
um,
pressure, if you can, have somebody coming at you, it would be
if
even
there's
better.
pressure there, yeah,
Yeah.
which feet moving will help you kind of,
Yeah.
find that open ice. And so, yeah, the more you can shoot with your feet moving, it's deceptive to the goalie as well. To be able to shoot in motion, but shooting with your head up, your feet moving, are two things that if you worked on every day, really, really improve your game offensively, anyways.
Nice. All right. So, kind of just going to wrap this up with a couple more questions. What advice do you have for parents, both on the development side and kind of trying to handle, the recruiting process during these crazy COVID times?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the things that I'm hearing a lot is parents feeling this pressure that they need to get ice for their kids. If they don't get ice, they're just gonna be behind, and I'm kind of I'm kind of the opposite. Like there's so much less ice, which means that there's so much more time and opportunity to just work on your skills, like stick handling, like You know, take some time, you know, set up a net in your backyard or find a space so you can shoot, or, you know, look up stick handling skills online and just spend, you know, 20-30 minutes every day developing those skills. Um, and making sure that, because and obviously a lot of the gyms are closed, but you can put together a pretty good body weight workout at your house and keep working on those things. So although there's less ice, the opportunity to really just focus on yourself and your development is so huge right now, and I think a lot of people are missing that aspect of what's going on. You know, it's just a big rush to find ice, but really it's just, you know, set something up at home, get a space where you can stick handle. You know, if you have a trainer, ask for body weight workouts, and just being consistent with all that stuff. I think when things reopen up, they'll actually feel like they're in a better place because they've had work on their skills, and they're in good shape and good conditioning. Really good opportunity to work on explosion and speed. You know, it's all those things that maybe you don't have as much time if you're working so much, if you have so many games.
And how about handling the stress about feeling behind in the recruiting process?
I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that, because I know what you need to do is just focus on your actions and the things that you can do, and send videos to coaches. But the thing that I think people don't understand is, you know, we'll find you. We will find you if you're, you know, if you're a Division I player. And I think that the stress of feeling like if I don't play, I'm not going to get recruited, or, you know, I think that there's very little, even though, you know, the recruiting now is a little bit later. You know, we've gone to a lot of tournaments and we've seen a lot of players. Yeah, I don't know if there should be some stress. I think that everything will kind of just play out the way it's supposed to. But yeah, I
Right.
don't know.
So if folks want to learn more about University of Maine, you know, maybe tell us about what events you might be having coming up, how to connect with you guys.
Yeah, so we are hoping to be able to have summer camps this summer. And if you go to our website, umainecamps.com, once we you know, have dates or have the okay to do camps, all the dates will be up there, and our weeks. But you know, those are some of our favorite times in the summer, is just, you know, the camps, because you really get to know the players, and you know, you get to give them skills, and you know, a lot of our camps are, you know, it's not only on ice stuff. We do a lot of off ice stuff and skills, and we give them tools, and we do leadership stuff and nutrition stuff. And it's really for us an opportunity to help grow the women's game, and help them get all the tools that they need to be really successful. But as I said, at umainecamps.com, it will be, once we know if we will be able to have camps this summer, all the information will be on there.
Perfect. And if folks want to just express an interest in University of Maine, do you have a questionnaire to fill out online?
Yeah, on umainecamps.com, there is a questionnaire there. If you go there, it'll tell you, you know, women's hockey questionnaire, and so we'll be able to read those.
Perfect. And if folks want to reach out to you directly, are you are you on Twitter? Are you on Instagram? Are you just the team website?
Yeah, no, just our contact information is on the website. You know, if you just go to staff directory, all our emails are there. But I mean, people can find us. We get a lot of emails every day.
Awesome. Sara, I want to thank you so much. This has been really informative. It was great to learn so much about your background and
Yeah.
the University of Maine women's hockey program. Thank you so much for taking the time.
No, thank you for having us. I really enjoyed our time.
I really want to thank Sara for coming on the podcast today. It was great to hear her insights about the University of Maine women's hockey program. And remember, if you got something out of today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like, follow, subscribe, and even better if you could leave us a review so we can keep sharing this important hockey information with folks just like you.